Yeah, Mace Windu is definitely alive. I mean, if Star Wars has any rule, the one rule is that nobody dies from a high fall.
You're not gonna like. Let's see what happens.
They're like getting your hands cut off and falling down a long hole. I mean, come on, that's like basic. That's just like a flesh wound in Star Wars. That's happened to everybody. Ugh. Oh, you thought Grievous. Why didn't that Luke take advantage of that moment? I'm so pissed at that Luke player for just standing there while he was stunned. I'm killing this Phasma. She doesn't know what she's doing.
This plan works.
Chosen one, countless victims.
Yeah, Maul was cool. Maul was cool. He's the Phantom Menace.
Until your killing improves by 50%.
He played... I'd say he was even... They did a better job with Maul than Boba in the movies. For like one-off villains.
Here, I like you.
I feel like Phasma got the shaft. Totally got the shaft. And I'm not just talking about my fantasies. I'm talking about... in the movies. They just... Oh my god, what? The stun did not work? That's BS. They did Phasma the worst in the movies, dude. I feel like they even did Finn an injustice by not doing Phasma good. You know, because Finn would have been had a much more interesting character arc if he lost to Phasma in the first movie and then came back and won, you know? Like, and they also completely ignore the fact that he used to be a stormtrooper in the later movies. Like, it never comes up again. Like, it's just a thing about him. I feel like it would totally be, like, more important to his character that he knows the people he's killing.
No problem.
I should have read the movies. If Star Wars is watching, you know, the Star Wars, the human, named Star Wars, if they're watching right now, if you want to scrap the sequels and get a new writer, I'm on it. I got a billion ideas, and it's got fan service, it's got fresh new ideas, it's not just a repeat of A New Hope, which, I mean, that should have been the first red flag with the sequel trilogy, is that the first one was just a repeat of A New Hope. Except worse. I mean, A New Hope was great, but they somehow did A New Hope but bad. Ugh. I do not want a Finn solo series. Finn had his chance. He's not an interesting character at all. They bombed it with him. Everything that's interesting could have been interesting about him. They didn't even lean into one bit.
So many targets.
They just made him like a crappy character with no direction. Well, I'm the reason our team's losing. Let's go Obi-Wan just to try and save this.
Villainy caused a path toward victory.
There we go. Let's just ram into these guys. Nobody wants to play with me. Why does nobody want to play with me? Bosk is down here. Oh, that's not going anywhere.
Continues.
Ah, I got froze. Ah, what? Come on. Poe should have been a way bigger character too. Poe was the only character that I walked away from the first movie feeling a connection to, and then they completely rewrote him for the second one. They got rid of anything, like he was a loyal soldier, like, and then he's He just goes rogue in the second one for no reason.
Force my hand.
Also, they should have just done away with the Resistance. I don't even know why that was even greenlit. It's like the Rebellion won. They're not the Resistance. They're the ones in charge. The Resistance should have been the bad guys. Like, there should have been, like, Princess Leia as the leader of the Republic, sort of. Not like the leader, but, you know, and then the Republic army, the, like, New Republic's army, against the Resistance, led by Sith. You know? Like, and they could have gone a whole espionage angle, where the Sith are now taking on a larger enemy in the Republic. And they don't have the cleverness of Palpatine to guide them, so they have to take a different approach. What up, 4K? I hate them all. Sequel rewrite stream? I don't think anybody gives a shit about that. I would, but that would just be like an ego move. Like, I love to write. Like, I write in my free time, so that's why I, like, it's so painful. Is because, like, these are glaring mistakes. And it's like they just knew they were going to make money, so they didn't care. Yeah, I mean, they could do a Sith saga. Here's what I would do for the protagonist. Alright, the protagonist would be, I think it would be someone who starts out as like a rogue Force sensitive. They don't know about the Jedi, they don't know about the Sith. They're kind of leaning towards the dark side, but they have no lust for power, so they're not drawn to it. And then you couldn't do Mace Windu as the guide, I think. Like, you could do someone with a purple lightsaber to sort of hint that they're sort of in Mace Windu's school of thought. You know, because, like, Mace Windu definitely survived. He definitely could have taken on an apprentice, and those would be some gray Jedi, because I feel like Mace Windu would become... His story arc after the run-in with Palpatine would totally be logical for him to go towards Grey Jedi, because he's already in touch with the dark side and in balance. You know, he has access to dark side abilities. It's just he's able to control it because he's a total master. And I feel like someone with a purple lightsaber could take on this protagonist who's leaning dark and guide them into the Force as a Grey Jedi, and sort of take that approach and have the post-Galactic Civil War world as the backdrop and focus on the characters in the first one and how they're going to take on this new world where there's a new republic and sort of like a terrorist type approach that the Sith are taking as like underground cell. You know, because there definitely would be people who had fond memories of the Empire. You know, because most people lived under the Empire, and the Empire did bring law and order to the galaxy. Which actors would I choose in my cast? I don't know, man. I mean, Star Wars has always kind of taken people like that aren't necessarily big mainstream actors and made them mainstream actors. And I feel like these types of characters that I'm describing and imagining, they wouldn't be too hard to play. So I don't know, man. Whenever I think of movie planning, I always think of how to save as much money as possible, because movies are expensive. And if you don't need a big star or like an amazing actor for a role, I would try to approach something that most people could play effectively, but still emotionally relatable.
Never.
We're doing the thing I hate. I'm not gonna block and circle you, Luke. I'm gonna attack you if you're doing that. I forgot that I was in. I completely forgot that we were doing Hero Showdown. I thought we were doing Heroes vs Villains, so I was taking a more cautious approach. Yeah, they could have done a movie about the Old Republic. I feel like the Old Republic, though, has had so much. Like, I do see why they would choose to make a sequels instead of like a prequel trilogy, because I feel like the Old Republic has a lot more content and it's been more fleshed out before Disney got their hands on it than what happened after the Battle of what was it, Endor? Yeah, the last battle is the Battle of Endor, I think. I know they couldn't handle the anti-duelists. That Luke was 100% a duelist. I think he rage quit. I don't remember who the Luke player was. He was totally going for duelist play, though. He didn't run. He tried running, but you cut him off. Who did you play as? You played as Iden, didn't you? I'll accept it, Kennedy. I'll accept it. If I were to write a Star Wars script, though, I don't like fan fiction because, like, what I just came up with was off the top of my head. Mostly, like, a lot of it is based on things that I've thought they should have done, because obviously the sequels have been out for a while. But if I were to go that route, I totally would just write my own thing and just take characters that I would have done in that world, and then, you know, because it's not too hard to change the setting and have the same plot, and then you're not violating copyright, and you're not stuck trying to get some like big business like Disney to accept your script. You could just do your own thing. Yeah, an army of Sith. I mean, the rule of two. There's no reason for it after Palpatine dies, because both Palpatine and Vader are the last Sith to follow the rule of two, and then they both die. You know. So you could totally have like a whole army of dark side people, and I feel like there would be gray Jedi after the Jedi are gone, because there's no strict light side enthusiasts except for Luke, and he'd obviously start his own Jedi thing too. Ugh. Also, I feel like the Republic would totally use old Imperial assets, you know? Like, they totally use Imperial Star Destroyers and stuff, because they'd have access to it, you know? There would definitely be Imperial ships that surrender, and there's so many Star Destroyers. Now that you've won, why not just use them? Like, I've seen videos explain it, saying that it's because of this, what they symbolize. But I mean, you're already a ragtag group with no funding, and there's this whole fleet now that nobody's in charge of. Ugh. This is rough. Why can't DICE just put people in a server? Also, back on Kennedy's question on like what actors would I cast, I'm not really a huge fan of a whole lot of modern actors. You know, like, we're sort of in an era where all of the actors that people are in love with are in the Marvel movies. We don't really have like a Brad Pitt. Like, of course Brad Pitt's still around, but there's not It's not like Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio are the superstars they were. They're still superstars, but I don't know how to explain this. Yeah, Will Smith's fun. He's sort of, in my opinion, he sort of had like a rough string of movies. I like Will Smith too, though. I Am Legend is a great movie, and his performance in it really helps that movie. Of course, Fresh Prince is a classic. First Men in Black is really good. Robert Downey Jr. as Thrawn. I don't know. I feel like Robert Downey Jr., like every movie you see him in, he tends to play that same kind of role because he's really good at it. But in Tropic Thunder, he totally played a completely different character than he usually plays. I feel like if he did Thrawn, though, it would be more Robert Downey Jr. I feel like you need someone who's plays more of an intellectual than like a playboy to play Thrawn. Two endings? What are you talking about here, Vanya? I forget. I can never remember what we were talking about when I check the chat. Yeah, cold, who can play cold and calculated. Um, Tom Hardy can do that role. Have you ever seen? If you've never seen Star Trek Nemesis, you should definitely watch it. It's got a very slow start, but Tom Hardy is an incredible villain, and he plays what you would expect Thrawn to be. Of course, the like modern Tom Hardy would do some like weird accent as Thrawn, but that wouldn't really. He can pull it off. I would totally watch a Tom Hardy movie. Let me see. Oh man, I can't remember what you guys are talking about the two endings. There's so many. At least we're having a good conversation during this load screen, so it's not dead air. Are you talking about I Am Legend still? I didn't know there were two endings to I Am Legend. General Kenobi. I'm only doing that for you, Pedro, because you're new here. Everybody else, I'm not doing General Kenobi for you, because everybody else has done it a billion times, but I'll do it for you, Pedro. Thank you for dropping by. We're talking about movies right now, because we're in a load screen and nobody's joining. I love the ending where he dies in I Am Legend. I don't think I've ever seen a second ending. I know they like the girl and her son go to that settlement, but that's still really good. I can't remember if that lady had a son or not. Actually, now I think of it, did she had a child, right? A second ending for the dog. In I Am Legend, a second ending for the dog where he doesn't get choked out. I think the second ending for the dog should be he gets hit by a car. That'll be sadder, right? Nah. Nothing sadder than the guy who loves the dog having to choke out his own dog. I have never seen an ending where the girl and the kid get him to safety. I absolutely have no memory. I've seen I Am Legend so many times, and it's always been the ending where Will Smith dies. If I ever saw that ending where Will Smith lives, I'd probably, and I didn't know there was two endings, I'd probably have like a brain aneurysm trying to figure out what was going on.